What is the worst example of helicopter parenting you've ever seen? My first roommate in college had a helicopter mom whose helicoptering bordered on abuse. He was born deaf. She never allowed him to learn sign language because she would always be there to protect him and he needs to live a normal life, not a deaf life. Her words, not mine. He was pretty good at lip reading and could vocalize remarkably well given how profound his hearing loss was. She pulled me aside and very seriously asked me to inform her anytime he talked to a girl. She said he has problems with girls trying to take advantage of him. Insisted he say goodnight to her every night, which meant he had to be on instant messenger. Deaf, so he couldn't call without using a specialized typing phone with her for at least an hour every night, or else she'd call our room phone in a panic looking for him. This is the one that infuriates me the most. To intentionally keep someone from being able to communicate effectively. That is abuse. I teach high school and occasionally college. One IEP meeting for a high school student. The mother mentioned her other kid was enrolled at a local university and that she, the mother, was also enrolling in the same classes to ensure her daughter did her work. Facepalm. Kind of unrelated, but I find it funny. But by pure chance my mum and my brother were enrolled in the same class this term at university, and my mum was super adamant that my brother not embarrass her during the class. I worked as an instructor at a karate school and there was one parent no one wanted to deal with. Her son was in our 10-13-year-old class. The school had a little waiting area where parents could watch their kids, mainly used for the 4-6-year-old class. She would sit in the waiting area staring at her son. One class we were doing very light contact drills, no more than a poke, and she came out onto the floor and started yelling at me for putting her son in danger. I asked her to please leave the floor. I changed the drill to no contact. She ran onto the floor yelling at me for singling her kid out. I stopped the class and told her to speak with the head instructor. She left to talk to him and I look over at the kid and he was crying. I quickly moved to a fun drill and he started to smile. When the class ended, a few other parents came up to me and said that mom is nuts and she kept trying to come to school with the kid. I was at college orientation and one parent came up to my friend and said, "That girl over there is my daughter. You go up to her and introduce yourself to her and be her friend." It wasn't done in a cute way, it was semi-threatening. When my niece was 14 or so, her mother, my sister-in-law, was so far up her butt that I'm not sure the kid ever actually spoke for herself. One day my niece was in the bathroom and she took a little too long to finish, so her mother stood outside the door and said, "What's taking you so long? Are you wrapping the toilet paper around your hand like I showed you? Do you need me to come in there and show you again? Why is this door locked? Open this door." It was Thanksgiving dinner and the whole family just stared at my sister-in-law in shock. We could all hear my niece crying in the bathroom. That woman is a freaking psychopath. Some dude I know wanted to move out from his control freak mom at age 23 or so. His mom kept complaining about the places he was looking to rent. Eventually she decides that it's better if she buys an apartment and let him rent it from her, just to make sure that everything is in order. However, she couldn't quite afford it, so she involves the ex-husband, even if the dude said explicitly that he wanted nothing to do with that setup. I don't know all the details, but that's how he ended up anyway. She has a key to his place, and yes, she uses it to check on the place every time he's out of the apartment, and she even leaves small presents for him to just let him know that she was there. Small presents for him. For some reason, I'm picturing a dead mouse, like a cat would leave. I played a lot of hockey as a kid. I had a plate of nachos and a drink thrown at me by a mother and challenged to a fight by the father of one of the kids on the other team. The reason being I scored twice that game. He was the goalie and there were scouts there. There wasn't. We weren't that good. Keep in mind I was about 400 kilometers from home and staying with my team at a hotel, and this was in the arena lobby after the game while watching the next game. Man, hockey parents are the worst. There was a guy on my team whose dad would routinely get kicked out of rinks, which forced a penalty on our team. There is no kid in any sport who thinks, "Yeah dad." You get them when their father is acting like a petulant 4-year-old in the stands. An old neighbor of mine was notorious for being clingy to her daughter. Really one of those moms who tries to live vicariously through her kid. Daughter is now a junior in high school. Mum bought them identical phones, cases, and set identical backgrounds so no one would know when one had the other's phone. Mum would take daughter's phone and text daughter's boyfriend pretending to be her "I love you, I want to be together forever," etc. Even some of daughter's friends have caught mom texting them pretending to be the daughter. This is so creepy. Fear Street levels of creepy. Parents going on job interviews with their kid. Happens all the time. Same with medical school interviews. I teach taekwondo as a part-time job. I was running a class one afternoon and this one kid would not stop freaking around, talking whilst I was trying to explain something, ignoring what I was saying and just giving zero effort into everything. I reached the end of my tether and told him to do push-ups. Not many, about 15. Any normal kid would have done them, apologized and carried on. Out of nowhere his mum comes running out into the dodging, right through the middle of 3 separate classes and starts giving me crap about telling her darling little angel about making him doing push-ups, regardless if he deserved them or not. Lady, I'm here to make your son a stronger, better person. You want him to be a baby? Take him to a daycare center. My mom was a grade 1 teacher. One year, she had this trouble kid, wouldn't be quiet during lessons, rude to other kids and teachers, an all-around little crap. But his mother was far worse. She wouldn't believe anyone but her son about anything, and this kid knew how to play his mom. While he was a hellspawn at school, he acted all shy and victimized when his mom was around. They had meetings pretty much every other week. My mom, his mom, and eventually the principal got involved as well. But no matter what they told his mom, "Oh no, my son is perfect. He's an angel. He would never do any of that." What? He hit another kid in the face and made him bleed, and there were 30 witnesses, including 3 teachers and 2 parent volunteers? He would never do something like that. You all must have seen it wrong. This kid caused so much stress to my mom that year. I went to primary school with a kid whose parents were Italian immigrants. His mum would come to the school gate every lunch and give him pasta and make him sit and eat it all there in front of her. I knew a kid who wouldn't be allowed to take his Lego sets apart even years later. I don't think his mom understood the point of Legos. I know a kid who only got to assemble his Lego sets once, and under tight supervision from his mom, every piece had to be the same as in the instructions. In the end, they superglued them together. Freaking brutal. My friend works for the US Department of State. Parents of newly minted Foreign Service officers, our diplomatic corps, have called to complain that their son-daughter should not be assigned to country A because they are much better suited for country B. If I found out my parents had done this, I would be so furious I would ask if banishment was feasible. Friend of mine turns 19 in a month. He can't hang out past about 7 o'clock. His parents won't let him get a phone, even though they aren't in any financial troubles that we know of, and worst of all, won't let him get a job until he's 21. The kid is afraid to talk to people from how much they shelter him. It's actually pretty sad. I knew a guy with the same situation in school. He filed for underage independence, or whatever it's called, and moved out. My roommate in college would not do his laundry, ever, until his mom came to do it for him every couple of months. He had tons of clothes and would just start piling them up in the closet as he wore them. Then his mom would come in and basically monopolize the dorm laundry facilities for 3 hours doing all his laundry. I didn't know her, just said hi a couple times in passing. One time I come back and all my laundry was done too, and put away. She folded my underwear. Folded. I was kind of creeped out, but then hey, clean laundry. I've been in and worked at a university for the past 10 years or so. To me, the worst examples aren't the incredibly hyper-controlling parents around lower, middle, or high school age. Those parents can be absolutely ridiculous, but when the kid is still living under their roof, I can understand being involved. For me, the absurd ones are the ones that continue helicoptering once the kid gets to college. A few things I've seen in my years here. Parents calling professors to complain about their kids' grades or how their kid was graded. I've seen this all the way up to graduate students. Parents demanding our registrar change their kids' schedule at their request because they're paying tuition. A parent demanding our registrar change their kids' major at their request because, again, they are paying tuition. This mother demanded that her son be a biomedical engineering major instead of a computer science major. Parents sitting in on their kids' classes on the first day with their kids and going up to talk to the professor afterward. I mean, I can understand sitting in the back of one of your kids' first really big classes just to get a feeling for what they are going to be doing, but sitting with them and actually participating? Oh my god. Fortunately, the law and our school are adamant about this. Administrators and professionals are to reply by law. We cannot discuss this with anyone except the student to everything. But half the time that just ticks the parent off even more because, after all, I'm paying tuition, he'll take what I want him to take. My parents were pretty bat crap crazy about parenting. As I got older, they got more and more crazy, wouldn't let me move out to go to uni at 18, so I ended up living at home. They wouldn't let me date, would have crazy arguments and occasionally get physical with me if they discovered I had spoken to a boy, limited my time on the internet, confiscated my phone even after I was an adult and paying for it myself. Last year I left home and they called the police reporting me missing and wasted a lot of police time. Then turned up at my BFS house 4 hours away where I was staying. We had to call the police who escorted away somewhere safer. They constantly hounded me with calls and texts. I went to see them 2 months later and they locked me into my old bedroom and my BF had to call the police again so I could leave without them hurting me. I went back in February to collect clothes and some belongings and had to have police escort me there. Glad I did, because they decided to have a huge family gathering and wanted to ambush me when I got there. I saw them once since then in June when they came to see me, didn't let them know where I lived and met them for half an hour in the park and crap got serious so I left again. As a teacher, so many, especially when I was teaching pre-K, one mom wanted to pay for us to have cameras in our center so she could see what her kid was doing throughout the day. I said no. She decided that she would visit our school 4 times a day, once for drop-off, before nap, after nap, and pick up. I remember my sister's preschool had a little room with a one-way mirror, so that you could watch your kid play without them knowing you were there. But some of those shoots were little monsters to each other when the staff weren't watching. Kid on my youth hockey team wasn't allowed to get dressed in the locker room. His parents made him dress in gear at home and then ride, in the backseat only, to the game. More deets. My parents were friendly with his parents so every once in a while I would have to catch a ride with them if my parents couldn't take me and I was not allowed to dress in the locker room either. This was not a case of embarrassment or transgender stuff as I remembered him asking to be allowed in the locker room. Just a case of overprotection from being the only child I guess. This continued into middle school. I worked at a dining hall in college and one parent called our manager to complain that her son was not getting big enough pieces of chicken in his general tsos. Sorry, your little boy isn't getting enough protein to grow up big and strong like his father. I work for the help desk at a university, and I get disgusted with some of the parents that call in. Most of the time they want me to give them Junior's password so that they can see his homework, grades, classes, etc. We have a separate login type system for financial aid related stuff, but these parents want to have the full password. Some things that I have heard, but I am paying for him to be there, so I should have access. I am his mother, and I need to know what he is up to. I just want to make sure he is taking the right classes. Unfortunately, I am not allowed to tell these people to cut the umbilical cord, but I can't give them the password either. I've been yelled at a few times. To be totally honest, when I worked in IT, these were my absolute favorite kinds of calls, walk-ins. Ordinarily I spent my whole day bending over backwards for unbelievably entitled users, but these were some of the few situations where I got to refuse a request. There's nothing more satisfying than smiling and saying no to someone as they get progressively more angry at you over the phone. My aunt gives my 8-year-old cousin a walkie-talkie when he goes a couple houses over to his friend's house to play. She then sits on her front porch and checks in every minute or two. It's hilarious. Dang, we also use those when my kid was that age, but only for hey come home now. One day some years ago, I got the following email out of the blue. Hi Stevenine, your parents sent me a package with your information and pictures and a letter saying they wanted to set us up. As flattered as I am in a committed relationship right now. I am also only 21 years old and I'm not looking to get married or have children anytime soon, which your parents made clear was your intention. I'm sorry, but this isn't something I am interested in. I wish you good luck in your endeavors. Yes, they were serious. Not as bad as most of these, but I once got a phone call from a parent screaming at me asking why her daughter wasn't allowed to swim in a competition coming up that weekend. She wouldn't let me get a word in to explain that I was not, in fact, her daughter's swim coach. I am not a swim coach at all. Her coach had the same name as me and was even the same age, but still lived with his parents, so mine was the only phone number in the phone book with my name. This was over 10 years ago. She went on for about 5 minutes explaining that she watches all the kids swimming and her daughter was definitely the strongest in her group. I was so mad. I simply agreed and told her that her daughter would definitely be swimming this weekend. She congratulated me on making the right decision and hung up. I really wish I could see what happened. Just a few months ago, while I was working my custodian job at my school's student union, a worried mom approached. She told me she lost her daughter and that she was lost. She tried calling her and she didn't answer. I took it very serious and asked her where she was supposed to be. She said at one of the dorms. Eventuality, the daughter calls and says she is separated and the mom tells me she is scared and alone. We leave the union building and search for her daughter and we arrive at the dorm. I then begin to notice that it's full of group leaders and new students. It clicks that her daughter is 18 years old and the mom was overreacting. I just wasted 20 minutes helping a way to worried mom find her college-age daughter. I really thought a little kid was lost. I blame working retail prior to this job. My aunt hasn't let my cousin who is 11 go to any birthday parties besides his own or go to any parks because she is afraid he will get sick from the other kids. Also, he still sleeps with my aunt and uncle in their bed. One of my friends has to call his parents every single day, dutifully, and describe how his day was. One time he couldn't call the parents due to no network and next day his parents sent him on a guilt trip saying how irresponsible he was and how his mom was worried sick. He will turn 32 soon and oddly seems to be okay with all that. Every time he's troubled, he expects daddy's help. I call my dad every day on the way home from work, but it's mostly to talk about our jobs, very similar professions, and talk about football. He's my best friend. The kids my mom used to nanny had the worst helicopter parents I've ever witnessed. They had strict schedules for everything they did, including eating, sleeping, and even crapping. My mom had to collect crap samples from the children to show the parents. She also had to make every meal exactly per the instructions they provided. They didn't have any health problems as far as my mother was aware of. By the time my mom left the job, the kids were already pretty freaked up. I can only imagine how they are now. You have been visited by the magical duck. You don't have to do anything. He will simply give you a good day today. If you are new to the channel, you can subscribe. I publish new videos every day. Until then, check another video, or don't. Either way, have a great day, you magnificent people.